In 2018, Manny Machado was spending his last season with the Orioles. We all knew that they would eventually move on, and that they were even sniffing around for potential trade suitors. During that pursuit, an interesting suitor came up in the Brewers, but the Orioles' asking price was high. They wanted Corbin Burnes. At the time, he was only a prospect who had never pitched in the big leagues. But the Brewers knew what they had in Burnes, and instead they give a counter offer, offering young outfielder Brett Phillips and prospect Luis Ortiz. The Orioles may have considered this offer, to be good, but instead they ended up going with the LA Dodgers 5-player offer. So Corbin Burnes to the Orioles did not come to fruition. It's now 2024, and hindsight shows that Corbin Burnes is one of the league's best pitchers. He won a Cy Young, he led the league in strikeouts, and he's just done so much in the big leagues. Meanwhile, for the Orioles, they're finally starting to get somewhere. Establishing a main core in 2023 was the main objective. That is exactly what ended up happening. Gunnar Henderson won Rookie of the Year, Adley Rutschman put up an awesome year, and Grayson Rodriguez even broke out in the second half. They accomplished a lot more than anyone thought that they were going to be, becoming a 100-win team, winning more games than any other team in the AL. And it doesn't end there either. They have the best farm system in baseball, which is simply insane, by the way, considering that they already have so much talent that has came up. But if you were to ask anyone the weakness of the 2023 Orioles, they would tell you that they lacked an ace. That's the bottom line of all this. Without an ace, we weren't sure how far that they would get in the playoffs, and yeah, our concerns were correct. They were swept in the first round that they played in, giving up a combined 20 runs in the 3 games that they played. From a team that just won 100 games, it was not acceptable. So going into the offseason, fans were hoping for a big move. The only problem was owner John Angelos, a top 3 worst owner in MLB who just doesn't spend money. And the payroll proved that in 2023, being the second lowest spending team, only ahead of the Oakland A's. So fans didn't have the expectations that they were going to be making a big move or big signing, but they could have made a big trade. Dylan Cease and even Corbin Burnes were both available, 2 top pitchers on the market that had to have been the choice that they were going with. Fast forward all the way into the end of January, nothing had happened. The team signed a reliever for 1 year, but nothing else outside of that. And then we saw a major development. 2 billionaires were going in on a purchase to go and buy the Baltimore Orioles. Undoubtedly the best news that O's fans have received in the past 30 years. A new direction in Baltimore, and no more of the losing mentality. I mean, this mentality lost them so much. The mentality that made no one take them serious. This time, they have guts. Hall of Famer Cal Ripken Jr. even went in on this purchase with this ownership group. So that means Cal Ripken Jr. owns a part of the Baltimore Orioles, and he has a stake. This day will forever be special and remembered. One thing everyone was questioning, though, is what would this ownership actually look like? What would they do? For example, would they sign free agents? Would they extend players? Would they make a big trade? We got our answer after day 1 of owning this team. They out of nowhere traded for Corbin Burnes from the Brewers. You heard that right, it happened on 1 day of owning the majority of the team. Having a glaring weakness in the rotation, missing 1 piece. They went ahead and filled it in right away. Executive Mike Elias was being handicapped by his previous ownership. 1 day into this one, the executive of the year makes a big move. He couldn't make the moves that he wanted to for a long time, and that's because the ownership was so involved. It's no coincidence that 1 day into this, that this move ends up happening. And yes, I understand this trade is very, very big for the actual team on the field, but I think it might be even bigger for the mentality and city of Baltimore. The fans don't just get to watch a great group on the field, but they now have an ownership that wants what they want, a winning team back in the city. First of all, since 2020, Burnes has had 3 seasons with a 2 ERA. This was truly something that made you think, like, wow, the Orioles are actually serious. Not only did they get this superstar pitcher, but they didn't have to give up any of their top 5 prospects, allowing them to hang on to guys who will be a part of that core future. Think about it, they're adding Burnes to a 100-win team, and they have prospects who are shooting up the system, including the #1 prospect in their system and in all of baseball, Jackson Holliday. Those 2 players are going to make this team just so much better. Compare the divisional opponents that Baltimore's going up against. the perceived second best team in the AL East is the Yankees. Yeah, they added Juan Soto and Marcus Stroman to an 82-win team, so expect them to be much better than what they were. But with that being said, the Orioles are adding their best prospect and an ace. Then you look at the Blue Jays. They're likely going to be losing Matt Chapman to free agency, and quite honestly, they haven't added a whole lot. Then going down to Tampa, you don't have their ace in 2024 because McClanahan is injured, plus they traded away Tyler Glasnow, their second best pitcher. Last but not least, Boston. Well, actually, I guess least, but what else can you say? They subtracted Chris Sale, Alex Verdugo, Justin Turner, and possibly even Adam Duvall. However, they've added Lucas Giolito, Vaughn Grissom, and Tyler O'Neill, and yeah, nothing else. So this is very clearly the Orioles division to lose. Hell, they're the best team in the AL as far as I'm concerned. There's just no team that even comes close. Or, hear this, if Burns and Bradish were on the same team in 2023, it would have been the best pitching duo if you went ahead and based it off of ERA. As far as expectations for the rest of the offseason, I wouldn't expect them to make any sort of major move, but I guess you never know. They surprised us here, and maybe they'll do it again. If not this offseason, they could do it at the MLB trade deadline. You got to imagine by then that they'll have discovered some sort of a weakness with this team. Obviously, they will not have Felix Bautista all season in 2024. So, maybe they could even explore a trade for a closer at the trade deadline. This is the most exciting Orioles offseason of all time. I'm not saying it's the best, but I'm saying it is the most exciting. If you guys enjoyed, please subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. If not, thanks for watching anyway, and peace out.
I can never ever find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right, it feels right, it feels right.